Hello and welcome back. Okay, so in this video, we're going to write a test to expect the recipes being listed in the index page or the /recipes route. And we want it to pass. We want the recipes to show up. So how are we going to devise this test? First, we need to create some test data. So we're going to use the setup method, which is our key method, remember, to set up a couple of recipes, and then we will test to go to the recipes path and ensure that those recipes show up. Okay, so define setup and then the test is going to be should get recipes listing. Do. Okay. We're going to set up two recipes. So we're going to need a user, or a chef in our case, because we have this requirement that a chef needs to be present in order for a recipe to be created. All right. So I'm going to say add user equals recipe.createBang, meaning I want a recipe to be created. The bang just ensures that it hits the database, okay, as soon as it's created. And we're gonna give it a chef name of Masroor, okay, and then email of masroor@example.com, then quotes. So there's my @user instance variable. You can call this anything. You can call this @chef if you want. You can call this @creator if you want, whatever you feel like. And let's go ahead and create two recipes. Since it's a listing, I want to show multiple recipes. So recipe equals recipe dot create, and then name I'm going to say vegetable saute, and description I'm going to say great vegetable saute, add vegetable and oil, okay, within quotes. And here, since I didn't do @chef.recipes.create, I'll have to add the chef. So I'll say comma chef colon @chef, okay. So I'm saying the chef of this is this chef instance variable that we created, this chef. Now there's a different way of doing this, and I'll show you how to do that in this line, okay. At recipe2 equals, let's do it this way, chef dot recipes dot build, and then I'm gonna say name will be chicken saute within quotes, description will be great chicken dish, okay. And here I don't have to give the @chef instance variable, because over here I'm saying this chef is creating this recipe, but this is not hitting the database, okay. This one is not hitting the database since I used build. Build doesn't hit the database. I have to go something like this at recipe2.save, and then it'll save it. All right. So there's my setup. Okay, two different ways. You can obviously pick one. It's up to you. I've shown you multiple things here. Create bang to hit the database, create so it hits the database right away, build so it creates in memory, and then save that it saves it. You can also try at chef.recipes.create. All right, so there are multiple things you can try. Okay, so I have this @recipe and @recipe2. So in my listing of recipes, what do I want to see? I want to see the recipes listed. So over here, I want to first get to recipes path again, right? I want to go to the path. And then what I want to do is I want to assert this index template. All right. So the code for that is assert template. And then it's another assertion. And I have to specify which template to assert. This is the recipes index. So recipes and then index HTML-ERB. So recipes index. And this is going to fail when I run this, okay? Because Rails just changed and added this to a controller test, but I'll get to that. And then what do I want to see? I want to see both of these recipe names show up on the listing page, because this is going to show the recipe name, maybe a brief description, but I don't know at this time. But I know the name will show up for sure. And I also want the name to be a URL, a link. Just like in our example app, when you look at the listing of articles, okay, you see all these articles and see all the names, the article names are basically links. They take it to the article show page. So we want that, all right? But first, since I don't have the show page, okay, this one actually has a show page. I don't have a show action. I'm dealing with the index action. I simply want to see that the name exists. So I'm going to use assert match, okay? That's the assertion to use. And then at recipe.name, meaning this recipe, at recipe, and this one's name, I want that to show up in the body of that index page, okay? So, comma, this is the keyword to get that, response.body, okay? So in the layout file, in the body of that layout file, so this whole thing is the body, okay? This area right here, in the body, I want to see the name. So response body, and then assert match at recipe2.name, because I have a recipe2 as well, and I want to see that in the body as well, response.body, okay? And eventually, I want to change these to links, but right now, since I don't have the show page, I don't want to deal with it right now. So I want to at least see the names. So let's run this test and see what happens. Rails test. Okay, I have 2 errors. So it says unknown attribute chef name for recipe. That's interesting. What did I do wrong here? Let's look at our setup. Whoops. In our chef, when we're creating the chef, we wrote recipe.create. Well, that's not going to work. This is going to be chef.create. Chef.create. Okay, let's save that. Let's try that again. Rails test. Okay, we have an error. Okay, what is the error saying? The error is saying assert template. So assert template, okay, has been extracted to a gem. To continue using it, add gem Rails controller testing to your gem file. So this method, assert template, is grouped in this controller testing gem. So I have to add this gem to my gem file. Let's do that real quick. Let's pull up our gem file. Okay, go to your gem file right here, pull it up, and scroll down. There you go, group development test due here under gem SQLite. I'm going to add in gem Rails dash controller dash testing. Save that. Now let's install the gem. So bundle install dash dash without production. Okay, installing Rails controller testing. So that should be installed now. Let's go ahead and test Rails test. And I'll go back here. Close out of the gem file. All right, so now let's see one failure, no error this time. Okay, what does it say? It says failure, should get listing, and it says expected vegetable saute to match the output. Okay, so in the body of my output, this is what it got. All right, it got basically the entire HTML layout output, but it couldn't find the vegetable saute name in there. The string vegetable saute, it couldn't find that in there. All right, which is my recipe name. So we have to fix that error. To fix that error, we have to build our index action fully. All right, so how do we grab and display the name? We display the name by first grabbing all of the recipes that we have and simply running a loop through it, okay, and displaying it. That's all. So in my index HTML ERB, let's do the minimum necessary. I'm going to say h1 listing all recipes. Okay, and then embedded Ruby at recipes dot each do recipe, meaning I want to iterate through all the recipes in my at recipes instance variable, which I don't have right now. Okay, embedded Ruby end. To iterate through all my recipes, I need to grab this instance variable at recipes. Okay, and how do I grab an instance variable that displays all recipes? If I jump on Rails console, see what happens if I type in recipe with a caps R dot all. See, it displays all my recipes, right? So if I type in at recipe equals recipe dot all, it returns and displays all of my recipes. Now, if I type in simply at recipe, check it out. Now I didn't have to type recipe.all. My at recipe instance variable has all of this, right? So, exit out of the console. So in my recipes controller, in the index action, I'll simply type in recipes equals recipe.all. So it'll grab all the recipes from the database and store it in this instance variable. And then in the index action at recipes.each, because I need to iterate through all my recipes and I want to display the name. Okay, so let's try h4. Embedded Ruby equals recipe.name. Okay, and then close embedded Ruby right here, h4. While we're at it, let's just display the description as well. Recipe.description. Close embedded Ruby. And while we're at it, let's do this as well. Let's do small and we'll say embedded Ruby equals. I want to display when this was created, but I'll use a special method to display the date. Remember, we have created at and updated at, right? So I can say time underscore ago underscore in underscore words, and then I'll have to give it what I want this method to run. So recipe dot created at. Okay, and then close embedded Ruby. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's save this. Okay, and let's run our test over here, Rails test. Check it out. I have 19 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors. Okay, that means my test is passing. That means it's finding the name in the body for the first recipe and the second recipe. Now let's take a look from the web. Right here, if I reload the page, check it out, listing all recipes. There's the name, there's the description, there's the name of the second recipe, there's the description, and check it out, 7 days, 7 days. That's the time ago in words created at, right there, method at work. Okay, so obviously this looks terrible. You know, this is not how we want this to look. So let's update our index view to make it look a little better. Okay, so our test is passing and the information's there, but now we're going to update the formatting. Okay, visual presentation is important. So right here, we're going to say h1 align equals center. So I want the listing all recipes to be in the center. After that, I want align, so hr slash, okay, and then recipes at each to recipe. That's fine. Now let's create a row. So div class equals row, and in that row let's create a little section where we're going to have the chef image presented later. Okay, so first I want to display the chef, whoever created it, their image, and then the recipe. Okay, at this point I'll leave this empty, but I will still put in what I need. So div class equals call md2. And if you know Twitter Bootstrap, this is basically just arranging for the first two columns to be occupied by the chef image, and then the rest of the columns to be occupied by the recipe. Okay, now Bootstrap uses a grid system. So if you want to picture this, think of this page and think of lines, okay, grids, different grids running down this, okay, and then you can use different grids to specify where in the page you want something to happen. So I want the first two to be allocated to the chef's image and the rest to be the recipe. So there you go. Call MD2, and I'll leave that right there. I'll put in a section class. I'll simply say at this time center. I don't want to fill that in right now because I don't have any chef images. And then let's deal with the recipe. So div, actually, I want this. Command X, I want this to be after the first div. Okay, so here I'll say div class. Since I use call MD2 for the chef, I'm going to use call MD8. Okay, that will arrange for the recipe to be in the next 8 grids. So right here, or next 8 columns. And I also wanted to give class of well, because it looks good. It adds some background and some color in it. And here, I'll paste it. H4 recipe name. Okay, H4, that's fine. And then I have my recipe description. But what if my description is really big? Let's say 500 words or whatever. Then I don't want the entire description to be displayed in the index page. Then I want it to display in the show page. So in the index page, what I want is I want to use this method. I want to say truncate. Okay, it's a method in Rails. So truncate recipe.description, and then I can specify how much I want it to show. So I'm going to say length colon 150. So if I have like a 400 word description, I only want the 150 to show up in the index page. Okay. Actually, this one I don't want in H4. I want this to be a p tag. Recipe description. So close the p tag. Okay, and then I want another p tag and put this in there. Okay. And then put the closing p tag after this. Command V. All right, now within it, let's see. I'm going to say span class equals quiet. And Command X. Okay, and then I want it to be small. And then embedded Ruby, I want to say created before the embedded Ruby, then time ago in words, recipe created at, close embedded Ruby, and then ago, then close the small, and then close the span class, and then close P, and then the 2 divs and end. Okay, so let's see what it looks like. Let's save this. Perfect. Listing all recipes. There's my line. There's the name, description, created 7 days ago. Perfect. Created 7 days ago. Great. So now, next thing is I want to work on the show page for the recipes. I have the index page working. If I want this link, the name, to go to the recipe show page. So I want this to be a link. I want the show page there. And I also want to work on the profile picture of the chef. So I want to work on that as well. All right. So that's next on our agenda. But before we do that, we've done a lot of code. Let's do a commit at this time. I'm going to first shut down the server. Control C. And over here, git add -a, git commit -m. I'll say add TDD and index listing. Okay, now git push to push our code to our GitHub repository. Perfect. So I'll see you in the next video where we'll work on the show page.